where iconic investors reveal the critical moments that have shaped who they are today. You'll hear about 2 out of consensus calls, one that was on the money and one that wasn't. Today on the show, Jon Gray, President and Chief Operating Officer of Blackstone, with Dan Simkowitz, Co-President of Morgan Stanley. Jon stepped into his current role in 2018, and since then, Blackstone's assets under management have nearly tripled to over $1.2 trillion.
It's so good to have you here. It's fantastic. I'd say 30 years ago, our industry was so private, frankly, so small. I think it's a little inspiring what you're doing around marketing for financial services. But, when we led the Blackstone IPO, you're $88 billion of AUM. Now you're over $1 trillion. The organization is bigger and more complex. You've built both a world-class client service organization, but at the core of it is just incredible investment discipline and performance. And so, Jon, we're going to talk about 2 out-of-consensus investment decisions. So this one worked out perfectly in the end.
Yes.
EOP worked out great. These are 07 vintage deals right before the crash. Give us one that didn't work out so well.
One of the toughest lessons for me happened in the late 90s during the dot-com boom. I joined Blackstone in 92. I did M&A and private equity for a year and a half, and then I went into real estate after a crash. And basically for, 6, 7 years, I'm in real estate. Things just keep going up and up because you had bought things very cheaply. Interest rates were reasonable. There wasn't too much building. And when you buy everything and it goes up, it doesn't really train you to be a great investor, right? It's the experience, it's these hard lessons that make all the difference. And sort of the top of that was in the late 90s, I was really focused on Northern California because you were seeing the innovation, we were moving onto the internet and so forth. And what happened was I bought a building on North First Street in San Jose, nondescript, 2-story, and these were really crummy assets. They were crossed between office buildings and warehouses. They weren't worth very much physically. And we paid a big price for them because they had a tenant paying a huge rent. And instead of buying it at a 7 or 8% yield, I was buying it at 11 or 12%. I thought this was amazing. What I failed to notice was the major tenant was GoBosh.com.
What does Go Bosh mean?
Go Bosh means go big or stay home.com.
Oh, God.
I'm sure that, this company unfortunately didn't last very long. I should have stayed home because by March of 2000, the dot-com bubble blows and this tenant disappears. And I should have recognized we were paying well over physical replacement costs. The quality here was poor. And the tenant didn't have much in the way of revenue. It had very few people in the space. And in my enthusiasm of what had come before it, I sort of lost sight of that. Now, we ended up getting a letter of credit. I think we got about 1/3 of our money back. But it was really the first time I experienced financial loss in an investment. And we lost $20 or $25 million. But it was embarrassing to tell your investors, to tell your colleagues, and to look at it after the fact. It was like, oh my gosh, how stupid could I be? Why would I have paid that price for this? And there, it's a little bit of the danger of the mania of crowds, right? Where things were going so great that in that moment in time, we became disconnected from fundamental value.
And did someone come to you in that instance because you're not as senior as you were in 07 and say, Jon, these are the lessons that have to happen and hang in there? Or did you have to learn that yourself in the moment?
I think we all sort of talked about it. It was pretty clear. After the dot-com bubble burst, it was pretty clear to look back and say, gosh, when companies are trading at hundreds of times revenue, they're not making any money, the business model isn't viable, this was way too speculative. And what's interesting is I know today there's a lot of, are we in the same kind of environment? The only thing I would say is it feels very different to me. I mean, back then, as you know, Cisco, I think, was the biggest company. They traded at 130 times earnings. NVIDIA, the biggest company today, I think is less than 30 times earnings. And so I don't think we're at that kind of time. Now, if this runs for 5 more years and people think trees grow to the skies, that's always a risk. But I think as an investor, again, when you go through those experiences, it reminds you to question yourself that the danger is sort of the winning hand thing, that you keep doubling down because it's working. But at some point, the prices move too far, the assumptions move too far. And just because something's worked for a long period of time doesn't mean that's going to continue.
Blackstone probably has great people joining all the time, but if they've joined since...